the generation that grew up hearing "go outside" and "don't come back until the streetlights turn on," is now being criticized for being too hands-on with their kids. And that contradiction alone explains so much about Gen X parents. If you were born in the late 60s, 70s, or early 80s, you probably remember walking into a quiet, empty house after school. No one hovering, no one asking how your day went the second you stepped through the door. Both parents were working often for the first time at that scale in modern history. In fact, between 1970 and 1990, the percentage of mothers with children under 6 in the workforce rose dramatically, reshaping what childhood looked like for millions of families. You were what people later called a latchkey kid. You let yourself in. You microwaved something. You figured it out. Researchers have described Gen X as one of the least supervised and least nurtured generations in recent American history, and that's not meant as an insult, it's a description of circumstance. You learned independence early because there wasn't much alternative. If you had a problem at school, you handled it. If a teacher gave you a grade you didn't like, no one was drafting emails on your behalf. If you fell out with a friend, the advice was simple: deal with it. That daily autonomy shaped something deep. It built resilience. It built self-reliance. But it also built a kind of emotional armor. From the outside, it looked like strength. From the inside, it sometimes felt like being alone. Fast forward to today, and you'll hear a very different tone from many Gen X parents. A lot of them openly admit that their childhood still echoes in how they raise their own kids. They are surprisingly reflective about it. Many have consciously decided to parent in ways that directly respond to what they didn't receive: more presence, more listening, more involvement. Some people have started calling them stealth fighter parents. They are not constantly hovering. They are not tracking every move. But when something truly matters, they mobilize. They might let their child navigate everyday conflicts independently, but if there's a serious issue, they will absolutely show up calm, sharp, and ready. It's not loud parenting. It's strategic parenting. The funny thing is, a lot of them never intended to be this involved. They valued the freedom they had growing up. They told themselves they wouldn't overcorrect, but then they had kids. And suddenly, the memory of unlocking a door to an empty house, of handling big feelings alone, hits differently. When you're the parent, those old experiences don't disappear, resurface. There's a well-known framework in psychology that helps explain what might be happening here. Developmental psychologist Diana Baumrind identified parenting styles based on 2 key factors: responsiveness, meaning emotional warmth and availability, and demandingness, meaning structure and expectations. Authoritative parenting ranks high in both. It combines warmth with clear boundaries. It's different from authoritarian parenting, which is strict but emotionally distant, and it's different from permissive parenting, which is affectionate but low on rules. Authoritative parenting says, "I care about you deeply, and I still expect you to take responsibility." Decades of research link this approach to strong emotional regulation, higher self-esteem, better academic outcomes, healthier peer relationships, and lower rates of anxiety and depression. While there's no sweeping study proving Gen X as a whole practices this style, the way many of them describe their intentions: be present, but not intrusive, supportive, but not smothering, lines up closely with that model. Gen X's broader life experience also matters. They came of age during economic downturns. They watched stable career paths evaporate. They saw pensions disappear and job security become less predictable. Growing up with that instability leaves a mark. When you learn early that institutions won't always cushion your fall, you prepare your children differently. You don't promise them certainty. You try to give them competence. But they are doing this in a world radically different from the one they knew. Gen X is the first generation raising children fully immersed in the age of social media, where every milestone can be curated and judged. For people who grew up when embarrassment faded with time instead of living online forever, that shift is massive. Oversharing feels unnatural. Constant comparison feels exhausting. And many Gen X parents are tired. They are supporting aging parents while raising kids. They are navigating mid-career pressure and financial strain. They are often called the sandwich generation for a reason. Their own parents might accuse them of coddling. Their kids might accuse them of being too strict. They are translating between 2 value systems that don't quite align. They are trying to preserve what worked: independence, grit, adaptability, adding what was missing: emotional safety, attentiveness, validation. That balancing act isn't clean, it's messy and nuanced. Interestingly, Gen X parents often don't seem overly concerned with external approval. Being latchkey kids taught them something subtle but powerful. Outside validation is inconsistent. So instead of parenting for applause, they tend to rely on their internal compass. They'll let their teenager stumble more than once, understanding that growth is rarely linear. But when things unravel at 2 a.m., they're the steady voice on the other end of the hallway. Their relationship with technology also plays a role. They remember analog childhood's bike rides until dusk, boredom as a default state, figuring out fun without a screen. They also adapted to the digital revolution as adults. That dual perspective makes them both capable and cautious. When they set limits on devices, it's usually informed by lived contrast rather than panic. You might notice them at school events not aggressively networking, not performatively involved but present, watching, available, not glued to a screen. They may look detached, but they are tuned in. They want their kids to feel supported without feeling suffocated. It's not flawless. It doesn't always match trending parenting advice. But for a generation once described as underparented, the commitment to emotional presence is significant. They are attempting something complex, breaking cycles without discarding resilience. Gen X has never been particularly interested in fitting neatly into labels anyway, and maybe that's exactly why their parenting doesn't either. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing. And if you appreciate deep dives into generational psychology like this, you can support the channel by becoming a member.